Okay, well, as folks are joining in, I'll just go ahead and get started and hopefully folks will join in. I just want to introduce myself to everyone. My name is Sasha Willis. I'm owner of Creations by Sasha. It's primarily a custom stationery business, although that's not how it started, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But a little bit about my background. I have been in business since about 2011. And I actually have a background in both business and design. So I went to school in undergrad for actually business management, and that's a lot of where this creating this business mindset comes from. And then I went to grad school for public administration and HR actually, and that's what my daytime full-time job is. I work in HR. And then I went back to school probably 2 years ago to kind of take some classes in design. And so I wanted to get a little bit more professional in my design capabilities as opposed to my self-taught. I'm pretty much self-taught in Illustrator and InDesign. So I wanted to take a couple of classes in that. So that's kind of how I got started. A little bit just about my business, and I'm going to tell you this story that way you can kind of see where this business mindset comes in. When I first started Creations by Sasha, I actually started as a stationery or as a scrapbook business. I really liked making scrapbooks, and I thought that a lot of people liked scrapbooks and they just didn't have the time to make them. So I decided I would offer up services like that. And it worked okay. I had a couple of clients, but that eventually evolved into me doing event design, or event styling, as I called it. Not the planning part, because I can't stand planning, but the design piece of it. I would throw these really elaborate Halloween parties, and I did my own invitations. I would do food cards, place cards, all sorts of decorations. And that's really what started Creations by Sasha in its current iteration. Um, that morphed into me designing stationery in general, and that turned into wedding stationery. I don't do events anymore. I stopped doing that probably last year when I found that I was pregnant. Doing events is a lot of work, so I decided to focus primarily on my stationery piece of it. But I say all that to tell you that when I first started my business, I was not intentional about it. And if you guys were looking at the workbook that I created just for this session, that's the first thing that is important when it comes to having a business mindset. It's about having the intentional act of starting a business. It doesn't matter whether you do digital design like myself. I know a lot of you guys are calligraphers. I just strictly computer design. But no matter what your intention is or what your background is, if you plan on starting a business, it's important that it is an intentional act. A lot of businesses start with the idea that this is a hobby, you like it, it's good, you're good at it, your friends think you're awesome at it, your family thinks you should start a business, and one day you just decide, okay, I'm gonna make up a name, I'm gonna throw up a website, throw up an Etsy store, start posting things on Instagram, now I have a business. That's not a business. Um, to be successful in business, you actually have to sit down and work through some things, which we'll go over in order to have a business be successful. That's why a lot of creatives fail in business. They're not intentional with their business when they first started. And that's why a lot of women fail in business. And that's one thing, that's the reason why I even contacted Sarah to have this session. I've been in the group for a while, and us as women tend to lack a little bit of confidence behind our business capabilities and what we can do when owning a business. And I really just wanted to hopefully inspire you and speak to that and make you a little bit more confident when it comes to starting a business. So you've decided you want to start your business. What should you do? If you look in the workbook, the very first thing that I have is, why are you starting a business? Like I said, all of this, a lot of you, I'm sure, it started as a hobby, and that's perfectly fine. But why do you want to start a business? Is it because you like what you're doing and you just want to do it more often? Is it, do you want to make money? And if you want to make money, what does that look like? Does that look like a full-time business? Does that look like part-time? Does that look like I'm just going to have this business on the side so I can have some extra spending money? Why do you want to start a business? It's very important that you nail that down before you actually launch anything. Because if your main reason for starting a business is just that you like what you're doing, honestly, that's not enough. It has to be a little bit more than that. You have to understand the basics that come behind running a business. A lot of creative professionals are awesome at their craft, but they don't have the business capabilities that will make their business successful. And it's really important that you think about all of that stuff before you actually start your business. So if you're in the beginning stages, thanks, Sarah. If you're in the beginning stages of your business, I want you to sit down and write why you want to start your business before you do anything else. Um, After you've decided, yes, I'm confident that I want to start a business, I have a good reason for starting a business, I know where I want my business to be as far as if it's going to be full time, if I want to quit my job, what that looks like, there's a couple of things that you should think about. And I have it, it's a checklist. It's not a comprehensive list. Please don't quote me on this is everything that you need to do. I highly recommend that you talk to a lawyer and a tax accountant. A lot of them will let you sit down for 30 minutes or an hour complimentary session with them, and you can ask them questions. Depending on the state that you're in, you can also talk to a lot of states have their own better or not better business bureau, but small business associations that they have those authorities in each of your states. You should be able to call them and ask them the questions in order to walk you through setting up a business. So the very first thing that you should do when you want to start your business is determine your business structure. That means if you're going to be a sole proprietor, a LLC, if you're going to be a partnership. And I say all this, I know a question I always get all the time is, well, should I do this even if I'm not making any money? Should I register my business if I don't have any clients, I haven't brought any money? The answer is yes. You should do that. Because that means you're intentional in starting your business. It's okay if you don't make money your first year in business. It's okay if you don't make money your first 3 years in business. A lot of businesses don't make any money up to the first 5 years that in business. But in order to start a business and be intentional about it and having that mindset of being a business owner means that you are a legitimate business. And that means registering with your state to collect sales tax. And that means registering with the government to get an employee identification number. It's called an EIN, I believe is what the acronym is. That number, the federal number, allows you to purchase things wholesale, and it allows you to not use your social security number to run your business. It creates a separate entity, even if you're a sole proprietor, I'm a sole proprietor, to just run your business. And that allows you to also open a checking account in your business name. And that you'll see that after having an employee identification number and then registering with your state to collect sales tax, the next thing you want to do is open a business account. It's very important, even if you're only taking money from your personal account and transferring it into a business account at the beginning because you have no money, it's important at the beginning that you separate those transactions. You want to make sure that your business is your business money and that your personal is your personal money. And that becomes very important later on if you're growing, because receipts, receipts. It's good that you register, Grace, though. At least you did take that step. But you want to keep your business account separate, because if in the event that you were ever to get sued and you have all of that commingled into a personal account, that client can go after your personal account because you haven't separated any of that out. So that's a very important step when it comes to creating your business. After you get those legal things out the way, and like I said earlier, please talk to a lawyer and an accountant because I am neither of those things. But after you get those out of the way, you want to purchase your domain name and then get a professional email address. Even if your website is a simple coming soon page, you want to make sure that you've taken that domain name off of the web and that it's yours, you own it, and you can do things later on with it. And I say you want to have a professional email address because that creates a little bit of confidence in your business. So what that means is, and I'll be upfront, I'm a little abrasive sometimes. I can just be a little, I kind of say things point blank. If you have a Gmail address, if you have a Yahoo address, it's great to have Gmail, but get the version where you can have your domain name so your name at your website address.com. That just creates a more professional look, and it creates that appearance that you are a business, and that's what you want people to think, even if it's just you. Simply by having an @yourbusinessname.com makes you seem more professional. I know I have it through my hosting, which is HostGator. I know Gmail has G Suite where you can purchase it, I think for like $5 a month or $5 a year, something like that. So that's the one step that you want to take. And even if you don't have a website, just make sure you get your domain name so that way in the future you can have a domain name, or you can have your domain in the future. Yes, Colleen, purchase your domain ASAP, because people will try to take it from you and then they'll try to sell it to you for lots and lots of money. That's a very good point. Oh, and to speak to that same point, when you're registering your business with the state, or when you're registering with the government, try to do a little research. You want to make sure that no one else is using your name. So especially when it comes to the states, I believe you can't have a business name be similar if you're in the same, if you're selling the same things in a state. So if you're doing stationery, you can't be confused with another stationery business in the same state as yours. You can technically have the same name as someone outside of your state, but it depends on if it's federally trademarked or not. That's something separate, but a lawyer can help walk you through all that. You can also just search on the, I believe, the IRS site, or I'm not, don't quote me on that, but I want to say the IRS site, to see if that business is registered before you register your name and your business. So once you get your domain name set up, the fun begins. Now you have a business, it's official in that capacity. You're probably like, I have no customers, I don't know what I'm doing next. To me, the most important thing you can do after that is to define your brand and define your logo. And I have a couple of pages in the workbook that helps walk you through that. That means coming up with your mission statement. That means defining who your ideal client is, what your key brand colors are. You can work with someone to do that, or you can try to do it yourself. I did it myself in the beginning, and then I did a rebrand a couple of years ago, and I actually hired someone for that. But think about what you want your business to represent. What are your colors? What do you want the feeling to invoke? And really define your brand. Narrow down who your ideal client's going to be. Research where that person hangs out, what they look like. If you're targeting the more high-end clients, you want to have a brand that reflects that high-end feel. If you're going for the more DIY brides, then you want to have a brand that reflects that. So do a lot of research around that and really narrow down your, oh good, the next masterclass would be about branding. Really narrow down your branding and what that means. And once you have your branding, and I'll say a quick note, because Sarah and I got into this when we actually talked and we were talking about setting this up. I'll say a quick note about Etsy. So I'm not sure if any of you guys sell on Etsy. If you do, that's perfectly fine. I have a very love-hate relationship when it comes to selling on Etsy versus buying on Etsy. I personally do tons of shopping on Etsy. I get Christmas gifts on Etsy. I bought way too much stuff from my newborn son on Etsy. I love Etsy. Etsy can tarnish, I don't know if tarnish is the right word, but Etsy can overpower what your personal brand is. So I chose from the very beginning not to sell on Etsy, because one thing that I noticed when it came to Etsy was that when you ask someone where they got something, they say, I got it on Etsy. They don't say who the person was or who the store that they got it from. It's on Etsy. And I personally would rather spend the time and effort to build my brand and have people directed to my website as opposed to putting that effort into Etsy. Now, Etsy is great as far as the search market that it has. It can get you clients, and there's nothing wrong with starting on Etsy. But personally, I would always recommend that even if you start on Etsy, to try to move your clients from Etsy to a personal website. You want your clients coming to you. You don't want them to think of you and just think of Etsy and say, oh, where did I get that invitation from? Where did I get that painting from? Oh, I'll just search on Etsy again. And they might find something similar, but it might not be you. So you want to build your brand and have it be recognizable. Even if you're on Etsy, always direct them to your website. I've seen a lot of people on Etsy where once they send the invitations or whatever it was that I purchased from them, they have a little card that has their website information on it, and that way you can go directly to them in the future and not go through Etsy. And I don't personally sell on Etsy, but I know they charge fees for listings and things like that. You can take those fees that you're paying to Etsy and put them into the marketing for people to find your brand. Yes, I bought on Etsy and I found it on Pinterest. Yep, those. Yeah, I say it all the time. It's the devil of the situation. We all love Etsy, we all love Pinterest, and yet that doesn't help when it comes to building a brand. Um, so once you've built your brand, you've decided on your logos, you've decided on who your client is, you want to get down to pricing. Or before I get, yeah, you want to get down to pricing. So I have on, let's see, it's on page 6 of the workbook, a pricing worksheet. This is not the most definitive way to do pricing. There's several pricing models that you can go after, but it's very important before you really start to get your clients that you determine what your pricing is like. I see so much in the stationery industry that there are people, and this is because there's people who don't have that business mindset, who decided they wanted to take a hobby and turn it into a business, that are undercutting the stationery business and are making it hard for those of us who are trying to make this into a profitable business. It's hard to sell invitations at a premium price when you have people who are selling it at $1.75 an invitation. You really want to think through your pricing model and what that means to create a profit, not so much just to cover your expenses. And even if you're doing this only to get a little bit of spending money, that's fine, but think about the industry that you're in and how not to bring that industry down and what your pricing model should look like. So the easiest way to determine what your pricing is, you want to take the cost of your materials. So whatever that cost is at wholesale price for you, and I have an example in the workbook, you want to take the cost of your materials. If you decided on an hourly rate model, what do you want to get paid an hour? Think about if you work a full-time job or your part-time job. You get paid $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $45 an hour. What is your time worth? Don't undercut yourself. It doesn't matter if you think that you are the most horrible designer in the world and nobody's going to like your stuff. Do not undercut yourself. Think about what you are worth and what you need to survive, and at an hourly rate, what that means. You take your hourly rate and the number of hours that it would take you to complete whatever you're doing, whether it's calligraphy, whether it's a design, anything of that nature. You're going to add in your monthly overhead costs and multiply that times the number of hours that it takes to complete whatever you're working on. So your overhead costs include things like your internet service. So if you're paying for the internet, it includes your customer management system. So if you use things like Dubsado, if you use Acuity to schedule your clients, if you're using or your hosting fees for your website, any of those types of things, your accounting software, if you're paying someone to write your blog post, any of that, those are your overhead costs. So what you want to take what those costs are monthly and divide it by the number of hours that it took you to do that project, and that'll give you your overhead costs per project. And all of that together equals your flat rate. And once you have your flat rate, then you want to multiply that times whatever your profit margin is, what you decide that one is, 25%, 35%, 50%. It's really up to you at that point. I know some ladies do it a little different. Some people decide to do a design fee. It's the same type of concept. Your design fee essentially is what your time is worth, and then the materials and printing and everything of that nature is its own separate bucket. But that's the easiest way to determine your pricing. Let's see, Grace, yes, an hourly rate will make it too low. Yes, so it's okay to make it higher. You want to, like I said, you just want to make sure that you are valuing your time. You know, as business owners, your time is money, and it's important to charge for that time. If it takes you 5 hours to do something, you want to make sure that you're being compensated for that time. And I say that this model is easier to start with, and then maybe moving to a design fee model, because once you start doing design more often, you'll be faster at it. So if it took you 5 hours in the beginning and now it only takes you 2 hours to do it, then technically the profit would go down because now it's less time. One way to fix that is to charge a higher design fee or just a flat design fee, or you pay yourself more hourly. So you just want to think about that. It's good to look at your pricing structure every year and just modify it accordingly. Of course, inflation, things get more expensive. It's okay for your prices to go up. So after you've done all of your pricing, you figured out what you're going to charge for everything, what your services are, you want to define your processes. And that includes everything from onboarding a client through what it looks like through the design process, and then how you offboard them. So this is where that whole business mindset comes in. First and foremost, you always, 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 I cannot stress enough, you always want to have a contract. It's so important to have a contract. Even if it's your best friend in the world, even if it's your mother, you want to have a contract because that protects you and it protects your client. Even if it's something, the contracts are very simple. It's something as simple as I am providing X, this is what I'm providing, this is how much it's going to cost, this is when they can receive it or expect to receive it, and that's it. You sign it, they sign it. That's the most basic contract that you can have. Of course, you can get into things about ownership, who owns the design, things like that. But at the very least, you want to have a very simple contract for your clients. You want to have policies in place. This is where I see a lot. I don't know how to say this correctly, but I just see a lot that surrounds policies and sticking to our policies, especially as women in business. And the one thing that I always ask myself if I'm questioning my policies or if I'm questioning enforcing my policies is if a man would think the same thing or question the same thing. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So you want to, if you have a policy that says after 45 days, you're not going to refund something, or if they cancel, you keep the deposit. Don't question that. It's okay to stick to your policies. You don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be disrespectful to your clients, but you have those policies in place for a reason, and they're there to protect you and they're there to protect your client. Um, I saw a question today about someone was going back and forth. A person wanted a sample design uh, before anything had been paid. They were okay with the contract and they were okay with paying an invoice, but they wanted a sample first. And policy was no designs get done until there's a deposit. The question was, should I stick to that? Or, should I provide them a design? The answer is no. If your policies say that you don't perform any design work or any samples until after a deposit has been received, then stick to that. One thing I always love to say is that no is a complete sentence. You don't have to justify your business reasons. If you want to, you can do so in a nice way, but you don't have to. You can say, these are my policies, and thank you for understanding. I always caution people not to say, I'm sorry that, I apologize that these are my policies. I apologize, or I'm sorry that this is, what's in my business policies, or unfortunately. You don't want to use language like that because there's nothing unfortunate. You're not sorry. You don't have to apologize for it. That's what your business is. It's okay if people say no. It's okay if people decide that they don't want to book you. Someone will come around and decide that they do want to book you. Um, we see this in any business. If you go to the store and you try to return something at the 90-day mark, but their return policy is the 60-day mark, they're not going to let you return it. So stick to your policies, write those down, and own that, and be confident in that. That's the biggest thing when it comes to creating a business mindset. You have to get into the mind frame that you are a business owner. And sometimes being a business owner means that people won't like you. Sometimes it means that you have to make decisions that will make you a little bit uncomfortable, and that's okay. The more you do it, the easier it will be in the future. So write down those policies. Think about situations that you might be in or that you've seen in the groups. I know we've seen lots of things in the Becoming a Stationary Boss group. So look at some of those situations that people are in, and how would you want to respond to that, and make it a policy of yours. So you define your process, everything like that. The rest of the workbook is just kind of working through who your ideal client is. It's about setting some goals, some weekly goals, annual goals. I included a holiday calendar, so if you want to run promotions or things like that, or if you're scheduling social media posts, that you'll know holidays that come up. But one thing that I also want to talk about when it comes to creating a business mindset is the idea of having confidence. I've seen a lot in the groups about, and this goes back to the policy thing, but a lot of people don't have the confidence in their business, or they don't think that, you know, they're charging too much and people won't want to buy it, won't want to buy their product, they won't want to hire them. Um, I it's important to remember that if you set your pricing and you think that it's high, that's okay, because you might not necessarily be your ideal client. Um, just because pricing is high doesn't mean it's a bad thing. If you are targeting high-end couples, then your pricing should reflect that. It's okay if you wouldn't pay that much for your stationery. It just means that you're not the person that you're targeting. And it's okay to hear no. A lot of times I see where I don't want to send out this proposal because I think it's too high. I think they'll say no. If they say no, that's okay. Someone will come along and they'll say yes. It's just a matter of getting comfortable in that pricing model. Now, if I say that with the caveat that you should be doing research into what the pricing is around your area, or other stationery or calligraphers that are offering the same type of product as you. You want to do some research and kind of see, make sure you're in the right ballpark. You don't want to be all the way out the ballpark. You want to at least be in left field, to make sure you know you're still playing the same game. But you want to make sure that you're charging enough for your time, and that you know it's worth what you're doing. Like I said, that way you're a business owner, you're making a profit, you're running a business. So building confidence, it just takes time. I know I've seen it all the time. A lot of people just, they're scared, it makes them nervous. It's just something that takes time, and just work on it. It'll get easier. I promise it gets easier. um, Another thing I want to talk about, I see it all the time in groups, is and it goes along with confidence, is the whole talking, doing the consultation with potential clients. Um, a lot of us creative people are in the creative industry because we tend to be introverts. We like our craft, we like what we're doing, we like doing it in our own little bubble, and we don't like necessarily talking to people when we do it. Um, when it comes to owning a business, you have to talk to your client. You have to meet with your client sometimes. You can't do everything, unfortunately, through email. Sometimes, especially when dealing with paper, it's easier. It makes couples feel better to meet with them in person. If that makes you nervous, that's okay. I'm actually an introvert myself, but I just got better through practice and through talking. So if you are nervous, one way to build your confidence in those types of situations is to write down what you want to say, write down the important parts that you think, that you want your client to hear, things to go over, things that you want to make sure that they know about you and your business, and just practice with friends, practice with your family. Once you start doing a lot of consultations, you'll get better at it. You repeat yourself a lot when you do consultations, so a lot of that information will just come more freely as you move on, and it will get easier over time. So yes, your clients don't have to know that you're sweating before proposal. Yes, yep. It takes a lot of practice to get better. Um, yeah, they'll never let your clients know that you are nervous. You always, even if you are sweating inside, you're terrified, you always want your clients to feel comfortable with you. So if you can pretend, even if you have to give yourself another persona, and this is business Sasha over here, and business Sasha is confident and she's strong and she knows exactly what she's talking about. Um, let them see that person, and then worry about all the other stuff once you get off the call with them. Once you leave the restaurant, or once you leave Starbucks or Panera, then you can start being like, oh my gosh, like, I was so nervous. Don't let them see that part, because a client will trust what you say when they think that you trust what you say. If you are confident in what you're proposing, if you're confident in what you're saying to them, if you sound like you know what you're talking about, even if you maybe don't, then they will be confident in your ability, and they'll be more likely to book you. So yeah, Sarah said it, fake it till you make it. Even if you have to pretend you're someone else in that instance, fake it till you make it. Um, so that's kind of everything that I want to go over. I did have two questions that came up that I wanted to address, and then I'll open it up if anybody else has any questions. Hopefully I covered this one, but it was in an email that I got. Uh, the woman said she was feeling overwhelmed when it came to launching her business, and then she sees posts from other calligraphers and designers. She feels that she's stuck in the Instagram world and can't branch out even to Facebook because she doesn't have a website or pricing. Do you have a step-by-step plan or any suggestions? I always say the first thing is to never compare yourself to anybody on social media. Um, Social media, Instagram. Hi, Terry. Don't worry, you're not too late. Um, Social media, Facebook, all Snapchat, all of that good stuff. Um, that's not real life. So if you were to go to my social media right now, I am the most wide awake parent of a 3 month old. I love coffee. My husband and I have all the fun in the world. My stationery design is beautiful. I've been doing this forever. I have the most beautifully curated Instagram ever, but that's not real life. And we all know that. Social media is a curated showing of what we decide we want the world to see. Um, so don't compare yourself to anybody on social media when you're first starting your business. It's okay if you don't feel like you're up to somebody else's whatever they're showing on Instagram or Facebook. Um, you can aspire to be like that. If you see someone's Instagram feed and you're like, that's beautiful, I wish mine looked like that. Look at what they're doing, look at maybe how they're taking pictures or what that looks like. And then just work towards curating your own social media so that it looks like that. But just remember that that's not real life, and don't compare yourself to others. And I kind of answered the rest of that question just by going through it. Like I said, you first want to make sure that you're intentional about starting your business, register it legally and for tax purposes, determine who your clients are, determine your brand, determine your pricing structure, and then figure out where your ideal customer hangs out, whether that's Facebook groups, what their interests are, brands that they follow on Instagram, figure out where they hang out, and then how to market towards them. Another question that I got, and I'm not going to go too much into it because some of it seems a little personal, but essentially it boils down to should you share, how much of your personal life should you share with your clients? This person had some health issues and they want to know how much, thank you, Helen. They want to know how much they should share with their clients because it could mess up timelines, or they don't want to be seen as unreliable. So I'll tell you what I did when I was pregnant. I got pregnant last February and I just had my son this past October. When I met with clients all through last year, I made it known upfront that I am pregnant. And I made it known that that means sometimes I'm a little tired. It's a little rough for me in my first trimester. I was extremely tired during my first trimester of pregnancy. I just wanted to come home and sleep all of the time. But that if they decided to book with me, that I would make sure that they had a timeline, taking into account how I was feeling, and not so much. And I knew that personally I wasn't going to push myself, and I made a commitment to them. Don't worry that I'm pregnant. I'm still going to do everything I can to make sure your stationery is delivered on time and it's delivered to your satisfaction. So if you're having health issues or things like that, I say to divulge as much as you're comfortable with your clients. If you feel that it's going to if you're worried about scaring people off with those types of things, I think the more upfront you can be with your clients, the better. It kind of denotes a level of trust. If you say, honestly, this is what I'm going through, but this is my solution to the problem or to the situation, then they'll know, okay, you have a plan. It'll be different, or they can be more taken aback if they didn't know that going in and that you kind of sprung it on them instead. So I always just say, divulge as much as personally as you want to, but let them know this is my situation, but this is how I'm addressing the situation. That also means making sure that you're not taking on anything more than what you feel capable of. So if you are in a health situation, if you're pregnant like I was, I made sure I wasn't having too many clients at the time. I had a cutoff from when I would stop taking clients. And I let my clients know that if they didn't get me something as of this date, then I wouldn't be able to deliver for them, because that's when I was going to stop working, because I was going to prepare for my son to be born. So, just kind of manage your own your own health, what you're capable of doing. Don't take too much on if you don't feel that you can handle it. And just be honest with your clients, set expectations with them, and let them know what you plan on doing. And that same regard, I get a lot of questions that say, how much on social media should I divulge about my personal life? Should my business or should my Instagram be all about business? Should it be more personal? How do I balance that? I am of the opinion that, especially if it's just you or if you are the face of your brand, that people like to know the person behind the brand. They want to know what that looks like, who it is that they're working with, what does that person like, what kind of things are they into. So the way that I do that on my social media, especially on Instagram, I use Instagram stories for that. So if you look at my Instagram feed, it's pretty much professional. So all my stationery pictures, style shoots that I've been in, it has quotes and things like that that are business related. But if you look at my Instagram stories, a lot of it's personal life. It's me drinking coffee. It's maybe events that I'm going to, or if I'm having date night with my husband or going out with my sister-in-law, my friends. That's what I use Instagram stories for, because that goes away after 24 hours and it still lets people see who I am as a business owner, and they get to know a little bit more about me. But it also keeps my Instagram feed more professional. So integrate as much as you want to in your personal life, uh, in your social media, and in your brand, because especially nowadays with social media, people, a lot of the business and personal get very intertwined, and people want to know who is behind the company that they're buying something from, and it makes them feel more comfortable to see a different side, or that face of a business that in the past we never got to see. So that's kind of the questions that I got via email. Did anyone have any other questions? Ellen, I'm glad that I was able to give you a little pep talk to get back in the game. You can do it, and I believe in you. And yes. So the stories, yep. So Instagram stories, they only last for 24 hours. I think you can do the same thing on Snapchat. I only use Snapchat for the filters. But Instagram stories is a great way to post a little bit of just a little bit of your life. I post videos on there sometimes. I shot, like, I think the other day I shouted out all the wedding planners and florists and all the people in the industry that I work with that I wanted to recommend to people. I posted things that I bought from Etsy. I posted I got my first Christmas ornament for my son. I put that on my Instagram story. My love affair with coffee is prominent on my Instagram stories. So it's a great way to showcase who the person is behind the brand. Um, any other, yes, process videos. So I want to do process videos so bad on my Insta stories, but I don't have a tripod. So if that's what you want to do, make sure you get a tripod. It's a really good way to show like you assembling your stationery or printing something. It's people love things like that. They love to see how everything works. And so that's a great suggestion, sir. That's an awesome way to use Instagram stories. And are there any questions? Yes, setting a phone up in a cup. I've done it like on top of books, Grace, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know, Tamika, if you can share them to your Facebook page, but if you can, that's awesome. So I'll have to look into that. I know that now on Instagram you can actually save your stories as a highlight on your profile. So that if you have a really good Instagram story, like right now I have a quiz for couples to find their style. I have that saved as a highlight video on my profile. So yeah, I'll have to look into sharing that to your business page. So I didn't know that you can do that. Are there any questions from the group? Anyone? Sarah, did you happen to get any more emails? No? Okay. So I'm not seeing anything. Well, if no one has any questions, that's awesome. You can always feel free to email me. My email is info@creationsbysasha.com. If you have any, there's a question. What are some tips for being more confident? Sarah, you said it best earlier. Fake it till you make it. I think everyone always go through periods where they lack confidence in what they're doing. They question if they are good at what they do, if people will buy what they do. Just if you have to value yourself first and foremost before you have confidence in anything that you do. So to be more confident, you just have to practice. So that means showing people your work more often. That means putting yourself out there, even if it makes you uncomfortable. That means starting a social media page, starting an Instagram, and showing people your work just so that you hopefully can get some positive feedback. That means taking taking chances on things. So doing a bridal show, starting a website. That means asking people outside of your friend and family group about your work. That means setting up meetings with wedding planners and letting them know about your business, having coffee chats with them. Things like that build confidence because it's things that make us uncomfortable. And once we know that we can get through those things, we get a little bit more confident in ourselves. When I first started focusing on wedding stationery, the first thing I did was reach out to some wedding planners that I knew and just set up coffee chats with them and brought my stationery with me and said, this is what I'm doing now. I just wanted to show you my work. If you have any couples who would be interested, please just let me know if you think I would be a good fit. I did that with my friends first who were planners, and then I went through and found planners who I didn't know at all, reached out to them and said, I would love to have a coffee chat with you because I'm a stationery designer. I would love to, show you my work. Because I had done that with some of my friends first and got my practice underway and knew what I wanted to say, it made it easier and I was a little bit more confident in having that conversation with people I didn't know. So just knowing your value, knowing that what you do is good. Keep telling yourself that. If people have paid you for it in the past, then that means someone values your work. Um, but more so just knowing that you value your work and you value what's important because um, people value different things. So it's all kind of starts with yourself first. You want to be your biggest cheerleader. If you can do it, then that's the most important thing. Let's see. Terry asks, what was your first stationery design? How did you develop it? My first paying stationery design was actually for escort cards. And I had no idea what I was doing at the time. I bought paper from Michael's. I printed it on my home computer, and then it was a planner that I knew, and she needed something last minute. So that was how I did my first stationery design. My first, I guess, invitation design came from the same planner, and I kind of had a better idea at that point how I wanted my process to be. I had researched papers and colors and things of that nature before I started putting myself out there in stationery design. I wanted to make sure I knew, because of what I went through with those escort cards, I didn't know anything. I wanted to make sure I knew where could I get paper from, where could I get envelopes from, those types of questions before I started taking any clients because I didn't want to be scrambling like I did when I helped her. And so I made sure I had all of that down first. And like I mentioned earlier, I am purely a graphic designer. I do everything on the computer. So a lot of my design process is strictly, I do everything with a mouse and with my pen. And I go back and forth with my clients a lot to make sure that they like what they want. So that was kind of the first time I designed stationery. And Terry, not to point you out, but I just want to say that stationery is with an E when it's with paper, and stationery with an A means standing still. So I see that all the time. I made that mistake myself when I first started my stationery business. I had it on my website, stationery with an A, and it wasn't until someone pointed out to me that that wasn't the right one, and I felt so embarrassed because here I am trying to, I want you to buy my stationery. I can't even spell stationery. So no worries, don't be sorry. I like I said, I made the mistake myself. So I just love to remind people of that because it's something that comes up all the time. So Ellen asks, do you think it would be as effective to just mail a packet of sample suites to planners or better to get FaceTime? I say it's better to get FaceTime. Planners, they have people reaching out to them all the time. If you send them a sample, that's fine, but it's more than likely just going to get put to the side. I think it's better when they have something when they have a visual, if they can tie your product to you, and get to know you personally, then that creates a better impression. And then they can know if your personality fits with the type of clients that they have. Because a lot of you booking clients has to do with if your personalities will match, especially if you're doing wedding stationery. You want your couples to trust you. And that has to do with your personality and how you handle things. If you have high strung couples, are you going to be able to kind of bring them down, calm them down? So I always say it's better to try to meet face to face if you can. If you can't get them to meet face to face and you really want to work with that planner, then sure, send them a sample pack and just say, you know, I would love to meet with you whenever you have time available. Let's see. Oh, don't worry, Alana. We have it on repeat, so you won't miss any of it. Um, let's see. I thought there was another question. Were there any other questions? Oh, here we go, Sarah. What do you think about discounts and bartering services? So, discounts. I say I'm not opposed to discounts. When I work with wedding planners a lot and they bring me a lot of business, I tend to offer their clients like 5 or 10% discount off of their services, just because I work with that wedding planner a lot and they'll bring me clients consistently. As far as bartering services, I personally am not for it because time is money, and unless you're getting that same value that you're giving, which can be hard to quantify, then I am not personally for it. Um, it's 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 hard to figure out worth, and especially when it comes to paper goods, a lot of people don't think that stationery is that expensive or worth that much, so they tend to devalue it and not want to value or not want to barter what your stationery is worth. The only time that I would say otherwise is when it comes to style shoots. So I do style shoots all the time. I offer up my stationery for style shoots. In that case, that's the only time I would quote unquote barter services. So I give my stationery for free because I know I'm going to get pictures. But other than that, I don't really barter services that much. I'm not really a fan of that. But discounts only in certain instances. So like I said, I use it for my planners who come to me all the time. Discounts because you really want to get a client, and because you feel like you have no business. No, I'm not for discounts like that. Because the minute you start discounting your work, like if I saw on a group the other day that one person wanted to pay 70 cents an escort card versus 80 cents an escort card. That client's going to be a pain in the butt because they're arguing over 10 cents an escort card. And in that case, no, like this is my price. I charge 80 cents a card, even though I told that person I still thought that was too little. And I'm sorry if you're not comfortable paying that price, then, here are some people I can recommend, or I'm just not the right person for you. So when it comes to those kind of discounts, no, I don't discount my services in those types of situations. If I have repeat clients, sometimes I will discount. If they come back a lot, I may offer them a 10% discount just because they've used me a lot. But generally speaking, I'm not much of a discount person. I don't, I mean, most businesses don't offer discounts. I mean, especially high-end businesses, you don't really see places like Bloomingdale's and things like that offering discounts. So uh, the only time, the one exception to that all the time is if it's military or police officers or first responders. And that's only because I am a military brat. Both of my parents were in the military, and my husband is a police officer. So for those instances, I will offer discounts, but pretty much anything else, I don't offer discounts. Sarah, did you notice a difference with your client process with wedding planning versus stationery? Do the clients put an emphasis on something different, or was it similar? So do you mean like working with the planners, or do you mean like doing their stationery? I'm not sure I understand the question. So I'll say when I work with planners, I have two of them that work two separate ways. One of them I work directly with the client, whereas one of them prefers that I work through the planner. The process, let me see, I gotta read your question again, Sarah. Do you notice a difference with your client process with wedding planning versus stationery? Oh no, I wasn't a planner myself. I work with planners. So Um, so I work, like I said, one of my wedding planner friends, she prefers that I go through her as opposed to deal with the client directly versus one of my other wedding planner friends. I just go through the client and kind of CC them. So the process is a little different for both of them. But do I provide material samples to your clients? I don't provide material samples. I know some people do. I don't because right now all of my, well, not all of them, but most of my clients have been local. So I meet with them and I show them samples first. So they can get idea of what I have and what I'm envisioning for them. And for the clients that I have that haven't been local, they've never asked for paper samples. Um, and I kind of am of the opinion that most couples, most people picking out stationery have no idea about anything when it comes to paper, and so they're going to rely on you to be the expert. So I tend to pick out what I think will work for them. And unless they really have an opinion strongly, that's what I go with. I recommend this is what I want to do. I want to use this type of paper, these colors, and this is kind of what I'm thinking for their design, and then they sign off on it. So I've never given paper samples to clients. I've just always said I consider myself the expert. They're coming to me because I have that expertise in stationery. And I present it that way, and then they kind of just go with it. So Ellen, how do you distinguish what kind of style shoots you want to work with? I've noticed with a couple shoots I participate in where photographers don't match style. So the one thing I always do, I'm in a group called Style Shoots Across America. It's a huge group, but there's always a lot of people who are looking for stationery for style shoots. I always check out the photographer's page to see the photographer's style before I even offer up my stationery for a shoot. A lot of photographers take beautiful pictures, but take horrible photography of stationery because they don't understand the lighting. I've seen so much stationery where it's just blown out. You can't even tell that there's words written on it. So you always want to look at the photographer's work first before you even offer anything up. And if that person doesn't work and they reach out to you, then you can just say, I'm sorry, I'm not doing style shoots at this time, or I don't think our styles fit well, or something to that extent. And just let them know that you'll have to pass. But yeah, I always research the photographer first to make sure that I actually like the way that they take detailed shots of stationery before I offer up any of my stationery. Would love to know how you work with planners then. Yeah, I think hopefully I answered that question, Sarah. So like I said, a lot of times I just go. A lot of times my planners will set up initial meetings for me with their client, and that's where I do my initial presentation. I introduce myself. I have them fill out a questionnaire before I ever meet with them so I can get an idea about their wedding and kind of what they're envisioning. And during that first consultation is where I say, these are the colors that I'm thinking for you. This is kind of what I think will work for your day. And depending on the planner that I'm working with, I then deal directly with the client and just CC the planner, or I deal through the planner directly and they kind of work as a go-between. I personally never had problems working with a planner going through the client, but I know some people have. So that's just a personal plan or a personal preference that you want to make. Ellen, how long did it take you to earn an annual income compared to your previous full-time job? So I don't do this as a full-time job. Um, I'll be honest, I don't have any intentions to do this as a full-time job as of right now. I work for the government and I just had a baby. So I'm trying to have a little bit more of a stable income. But with that being said, I've been in business since 2011 doing my stationery, and for the past 3 years, I've made an increasing profit every 3 years. Certainly, it's definitely not comparable to my full-time job at all, but that's because I don't put in the effort to make it a full-time job. I don't do a lot of the marketing push that I could do if I wanted this to be my full-time job. But Ellen, if you're going full-time, then you want to push as much as you can into that marketing. You want to meet up with as many planners as you can. Planners are an excellent source to get recurring business all the time. They can bring you clients repeatedly. Now, especially since it's booking season, if you can get one or two planners on your side and have them recommend you, that is the best way to get full-time income. Another way is something that I'm doing right now, or in the talks of doing with a planner that I know is becoming their in-house stationery designer. And what that means, what that'll look like for me is that with this wedding planner, she will have an add-on package where, for depending on how I want to structure it, this is the type of stationery you can get for this package, and it's included in her wedding planning price, but then it's income for me, and it's a package that will work out together. um, let's see. I saw, hi Kyla from Kansas. Terry, how do I learn more about paper? So I think Sarah has a lot of good resources in the group to learn about paper. Some companies that I'm sure you guys have all heard from, Soho is a big one. Envelopements, or envelopments, I think is how you say it, is the one I mainly use. That's where I get a lot of my paper from. Um, I would just encourage you to ask all of the people in the group. There's certainly more people knowledgeable about paper here than I am. But definitely check out the resources, because that's where you can get a lot of that information. But Soho Paper, I think, I'm trying to remember my other ones. Cards and Pockets is a good one. They have a lot of samples that you can get. There's definitely a difference between, of course, letterpress paper and watercolor paper and things like that, if that's what you do. If you have a local print shop in your area, you can Google print shops. We have one in Maryland. It's called Indigo Ink that I love. And they certainly service people outside of Maryland too. You can actually reach out to them and they'll send you a sample paper pack. But if you have a local print shop or a letterpress shop, see if you can call them and just make an appointment and tour their shop. A lot of times they're really happy to do that for you, so you can see how their printing process works. And they are such a good resource of knowledge when it comes to printing and different type of papers like that. So I would definitely suggest that you research those types of things. Let's see, what else? Yeah, everything's slightly slanted. Yeah, I fully understand. Research who your photographers are before you do a style shoot. It definitely can make or break photos and makes it worth it. Announcement converters, that's the one I was thinking about. Yep, they'll also send you paper samples as well. Let's see. No problem, Terry. Were there any other questions? I don't think hopefully I didn't miss anything. Any other questions? No? Well, let's see. So, I'm just beginning, so my question about website design and setup, best payments may be somewhat annoying. Nope, that's a good question at all. So, and yeah, I mean, I can stay as long as people want, that's fine. But to answer your question, Kyla, about setup. So, website design, I personally use WordPress, not WordPress.com, WordPress.org. I have it hosted through HostGator. There's certainly different hosting companies that you can use. I suggest that you just research that. Squarespace, I've heard, is a really good option to set up website design. I would encourage you to, if you decide to use Squarespace or WordPress, there are lots of beautiful templates out there that you can use that give you that professional look without costing too much. I have a template myself. I think it cost me $60 for the template, and then I just customize it. So that's a really good way to get your website up and running. If you really have no idea what you're doing when it comes to website design, research some website designers. I cannot stress enough the importance of having a good website, because that really is the first thing that your clients will see. And even if it costs a little bit of money up front, it's an important investment to make in your business, because that's the first thing that people will see, and it represents you and your brand. Best payment options. So I use Destato for my client management, and then I use Stripe on the back end, and that's how I collect payments. One thing that I will say about payments, because I see this all the time, and it goes back to being a business. If you are accepting credit cards, you will be charged a credit card fee. There's no way to get around that. And if you are a legitimate business, then that's what being a business owner is. It means that you have to pay fees to collect credit card payments. Macy's, Target, Walmart, all of those companies pay credit card processing fees for processing credit cards. If you are trying to get people to PayPal you friends and family money, if you're trying to get them to Venmo you money, Cash App you money, a lot of that is against the terms and services agreements of those companies. It's against the credit card agreements for a lot of the credit cards, and you can potentially get your account shut down if you're doing that. I personally would never shop from a company that says you can Venmo me money or you can cash out me money, because that means they are not running their businesses legitimately. The fees, you can take those fees into account with your pricing, and then those fees are tax deductible when it comes to time to do your taxes. So that's just something that I just want to throw out there for payment options. It's really one of my pet peeves. I see it all the time with people trying to get around paying credit card fees. It's just the cost of doing business. So something just to remember. Let's see. Yes, thank you. Credit card fees are a part of doing business. Thank you, Sarah. It's really one of my pet peeves. Um, any other questions? Like I said, I'm more than happy to keep answering questions if you guys have them. How did you decide on pricing? So I've gone through pricing a lot. I have a pricing worksheet in the workbook that Sarah sent out earlier that goes into a little bit. But the main point is, when it comes to pricing, one, you want to research kind of what pricing looks like in your area. You want to decide what you are worth, whether that's an hourly rate or a flat fee. And then you want to stick to your pricing. So I charge I have a flat fee design. So what that means is I charge, I have material costs, I have a whole spreadsheet, I have material costs that I have all of my prices laid out for. And then I kind of multiply my material cost by the number of invitations. Then I add my design fee, and then I add a markup to all of that. And then I, of course, add in printing and things of that nature. And that's how I determine my pricing. So it is many different ways to do it, Kyla. I'd be more than happy to kind of go over with you. But I encourage you to look at the workbook, and there's a worksheet in there that can help go through that. Terry said someone told me about Square. Yes, Square is another good option. Square, Stripe is a good option. I always caution people against PayPal, just because even if you're using PayPal Business, they tend to sometimes side more with the client than they would with the business when it comes to any sort of disputes. Even I've heard with contracts in place, they still tend to do that. So I love Stripe. Some people don't like that it takes a couple of days for money to get deposited into their account. I know I used to use Square, and I think I had to manually get things moved into my account. With Stripe, it does it automatically. After a couple of days, it deposits the money directly into my account. So that's why I choose Stripe. Tamika, taxes. I wish we can have a live session on taxes. What systems would you prefer or recommend for accounting and handling taxes? So I use Wave right now to kind of do my bookkeeping. And this is actually a funny question. I am horrible at math. I suck at accounting. And even though in my day job, I actually work in an accounting division, and I do HR in my accounting division though. But the Wave app is really good. It syncs with your bank account, so you can kind of check all of your transactions there. I also have an Excel spreadsheet that I use that kind of goes over what are cost of good expenses, and then what are my office expenses or web hosting expenses. I have it laid out month by month, and then I just send it to my accountant at the end of the year, and he does my taxes. I cannot stress enough, if you are running a business, even if you're a sole proprietor, find yourself a good CPA, because they can recommend so many deductions that you can find when it comes to your business. They can make sure that they're telling you what receipts you need to save and things of that nature. They are the best resource that you can have. But Wave is a really good app, or a really good, it's an online website thing, but it's a really good platform to kind of keep all of your transactions in order. And then I've heard also QuickBooks is really good as well. So kind of no problem. Let's see. I think, any other questions? Do you have any resources, guidance on creating a template for that Excel sheet? I can send you, Ellen, do me a favor, you can email me, or anybody can email me. It's info@creationsbysasha.com, and I can send you what my Excel spreadsheet looks like. And that way you can kind of get an idea of my rudimentary bookkeeping skills. So yeah, just shoot me an email, and I'll send it over to you. I think I purchased the spreadsheet from Etsy, from a handmade business, and they had the spreadsheet, and I kind of modified it a little bit to suit my needs, and that's what I use for my bookkeeping. So you mentioned a workbook, yes. So if you go, Kyla, if you go to the group Facebook page, Sarah posted a link earlier to a Dropbox that has the workbook in it. If you can't find the link, feel free to email me, and you can find I'll send you the workbook if you can't find the link on the Facebook group page. Anything else, ladies? You guys are awesome asking all these questions. I think Sarah's going to repost the link too right now. Thank you, Sarah, for posting my email address as well. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions. So all of you guys are thanking me, but I want to thank you for spending the past hour with me and allowing me to share some information with you. It's really important to me on a personal level to try to inspire women to be more confident in their businesses and to be confident business owners. I think a lot of women struggle with that, and I always am trying to help women be more confident when it comes to owning a business. So if you have any other questions, if you go through the video on the replay and you think of more questions, anything that comes up, please feel free to email me. Sarah posted my email address again. It's info@creationsbysasha.com. I will be more than happy to answer any of your questions that you might have as they come up. I'm more than happy to spend some time with any of you and walk through your business models, any questions that you might have if you're setting up your business. I would love to help you get on the right starting foot. I made a lot of mistakes when I started my business. It cost me a lot of money because I wasn't intentional about it and I wasn't purposeful about it. So if there's any way that I can help you not make those same mistakes, I would love to do that. So feel free to reach out. Like Sarah said, you can find me on Instagram. It's creations_by_Sasha. My website is www.creationsbysasha.com. And I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/creationsbysasha. And on Pinterest, you can find me on Pinterest at pinterest.com/creation_by_Sasha. No S at the end of creations because that one was stolen. So feel free, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And it was wonderful talking to all of you ladies tonight. And I hope everyone enjoys their Friday night and have a good weekend. Thank you.